So apparently there's 6 weeks left to close the Iran deal, or else.
So that's why earlier this week I put out a post about the thing that's not being discussed in the meeting is directly the price of oil. All these negotiations, this MOU, is all being around, can we open the straits? Can we do this, do that here? But I think what's going to happen is, let's assume you get an MOU. What everybody is going to focus on is the price of oil really going to come down? And is it going to come down fast enough before the inventories run out? So just to be clear, in 6 weeks, we have an inventory countdown in weeks, not months, in weeks. And what you're seeing now by multiple oil executives, and what you're seeing is that we can see the drawdowns coming below operational minimums about them.
Yes, inventory levels of oil have been dropping in the United States. That's despite Trump releasing oil from the National Reserve. That's because tankers from around the world have been coming to the United States to load up, drawing down our inventories. And at current rate, somewhere in July, they're going to start running out.
Middle of July. Now, will it be the 21st of July? The 20? We can't. That's too detailed. But we know it's coming here in a matter of about 6 weeks, and we know that that's increasingly being said. So I think what you're gonna see is this idea of instability is going to be in about 4 weeks is going to start to become clear to the world, Mario. And my job here has been to anticipate what's coming. And that's what I try to do all the way through all the months you and I have been talking is what's coming next in the next few weeks. What's coming is I think the world's going to wake up to this new age of instability. And I'm going to talk about it as a concept, not just the details, although we can talk about every single detail you want. But the big thing I try to offer, Mario, is a framework, is a concept to understand what's coming. And that was true with the escalation trap. That was true with horizontal escalation.
Yeah, this guy has written a book called De-Escalation Trap. So he's always talking about that, the escalation trap. That doesn't mean he's wrong, but it's nearly a little bit of self-promotion he throws in there. In any case, I think he's right in that in about 6 weeks, the world's going to panic because inventories will, in some places, be depleted, like in the United States. Japan, I think, has a little bit longer. They have probably another 4 or 5 months of inventory. But the difference is they import 90% of their oil, so that's why they have more, because they absolutely need it. They're still going to be panicking, because once oil inventories are drawn down in the United States sort of sets the price for oil. It's going to send oil higher everywhere, and it'll be interesting.
That was true with Iran emerging as a fourth center of world power, and now I think it's that age of instability that's coming, and this is what states and governments are going to have to grapple with here. It's not going to just be everything go back to $63 Brent crude here like it was, I think, on February 22nd.
Okay, so there's 3 great concepts. And I've got a lot of questions about all 3 of them. The one is escalation trap. We've talked a lot about this. And the question I had before, and I'll throw it in there to kind of put it all together, is like, do you expect those clashes that are happening now to potentially lead us back into an escalation trap as early as now?
Without a doubt, that's still there. I know people want the escalation track, let's call it, to be off the table. And the reason is because they understand intuitively that this would breed more economic instability and more harm and so forth. The problem is that, again, for President Trump here, the MOU, even if he signs on the dotted line, there is still these giant set of issues that will not go away. Donald Trump could even agree that Iran will keep all of its enriched uranium, sign on the dotted line.
I'd say that if he signs on dotted line as the current agreement stands, which is entirely in Iran's favor, it'd be politically devastating for him. It'd be viewed as a loss. He won't be able to go around pretending the United States won this war anymore. It's media would turn on him, the pro-Israeli lobby would turn on him, and Asmongold would turn on him because Asmongold thought this war was a great idea. And when he finds out, well, we lost this war, we're in a worse position in every way. The regime's still there. Iran now controls the straits. We haven't secured the nuclear material. They still have mountains of missiles and drones that they can lob at everyone. And now there's a new supreme leader that's even more hardline than the last one. I mean, it's all bad from the U.S. perspective. And the instant Trump signs a deal, people like Asmongold will appraise the Iran war and begin to judge whether it was a success or not. And Trump doesn't want that because, according to any rational analysis, U.S. lost this war in Iran.
And then 2 weeks later, rip it up and say, I changed my mind. Another key example on the escalation trap, Mario, is imagine there's the MOU signed, but 2 weeks from now, Netanyahu runs in to Donald Trump and says, we've got the new supreme leader in our gun sights. It's a little more deep than we can go as Israel. Will you just do this with a B-2 and you can kill that new leader in 12 hours? Now,
This is why I said Iran needs to hold the Strait of Hormuz closed 6 months. 3 more months of this, and once the real economic pain over the summer hits, no one will dare attack Iran again. Right now, there was pain, but it's been mitigated. Financial markets manipulation have kept the price of oil down there, and they've released reserves from governments, which has helped alleviate the pressure in the oil markets. But that ends in July, and after that, the real pain starts. We need that. Iran needs that to happen to prevent exactly what he's outlining here. If they sign a deal today, and let's say it won't happen, but if Iran compromised and there was a deal that wasn't entirely in Iran's favor and Trump could live with, well then, what he's outlining here, if Trump gets out of it again, like he got out of it last year in 12-day war, he bombed Iran and then he walked away. If he manages to get away from it after killing Supreme Leader, and he gets away from it without, crushing defeat in midterms or something like that, then when Netanyahu pitches killing the new Supreme Leader, he might just do it. But, so Iran hasn't yet solidly enough established deterrence if it wants to prevent being attacked again. So it needs to hold the Strait of Hormuz closed a little longer.
Really think Donald Trump is going to say, oh, no, I signed an MOU. I'm keeping to my word. I'm not going to take out the new supreme leader.
Yes, that has no weight. Trump keeping to his word. I mean, he tore up the old nuclear agreement that had Obama signed as president of the United States, and Trump just ripped it out. Yeah, he has no... he attacked twice during negotiations. Just because Trump gives his words means nothing. What does mean something is terror. The terror of the Straits of Hormuz being closed for another 6 months. That is what Iran needs to establish. That anyone who comes in and bombs our supreme leader, the Straits of Hormuz are closed for 6 months. No one will attack them again.
I think it's of course possible, but I think a more plausible will be that at some point we will get some pretty hard intel on where that new supreme leader is, despite all the effort he will go to make that difficult. Remember, we did get bin Laden eventually. Okay, so and I think that when we get that intel, it's going to be almost.
This is why the Strait of Hormuz needs to be closed longer. That Iran shouldn't give ground in this deal. It should be as hardline as it is. And I'm saying this seriously because if some people like Mario sometimes suggest Iran give Trump an off-ramp, let him off the hook, give him something he can sign and call a win. Well, if Iran does what Mario sometimes suggests, then when the oil market starts flowing now, the Strait of Hormuz would start opening now, and the real pain this summer won't be as bad as it could have been. And the deterrence Iran set up, I mean, closure of Strait of Hormuz 3 months if the supreme leader dies, that's something the world can survive. 6 months, that's catastrophic. It's the difference between the oil inventories the world has built up. The United States doesn't have 6 months oil inventories, so the price will spike. So if they're intelligent, they will stay hardline and not, cave in on any deal.
Almost irresistible, Mario, for the U.S. to go there. And then what that's going to do, of course, is get us right back into this. So people want this whole, I understand they want it to be over, but that's coming from their heart. My job is to come with the head and say, okay, I hear you, but here's what's more realistic to expect going forward. So that's the escalation.
trap. And before we go to the horizontal escalation, I'll kind of mention all three pillars and how each one has its own risks. So the first one you started talking about now is the age of instability, which I found fascinating, is that Iran benefits from instability, whether it comes to the Strait of Hormuz or being able to advance its interests through its proxies because it won this war strategically and it's developed a very strong deterrent. And then you've got multipolarity that will pull in so many different directions that we will not go back to the oil price that we had before. And it brings a perpetual oil volatility in a perpetual or long-term era of instability. So that's on that pillar on why this is not good news. Not good news for multiple countries that are involved directly and indirectly. Then we have the escalation trap, which we've talked a lot about.
I think oil will be higher. Yes, there will be more of a premium, a risk premium built into oil. That's one reason it'll be higher. Another one is that things will remain tight in the oil market for a while now. Wells are shut in the Gulf. That takes weeks, if not months, to be put back online. Then you have damage that needs to be repaired. So the Gulf is not going to be up to 100% oil production. Probably not even this year. According to some, there's some wells that if you have the well that's towards the ends of its life and it gets shut in, it's just not worth reopening it. So there's going to be some oil production in the Gulf that never comes back online. And that combined with governments like around the world having depleted their oil reserves and needing to build that back up, that means they need to go out in the market and buy. We're not going to be seeing $70 a barrel oil anytime soon.
Is that you've given some good examples. The one about Mujtaba, it's wild that this is even a thing that you want to. It's going to be irresistible to kill the leader of a country you just signed an agreement of peace with. But that's the world we're in. We've just seen that happen time and time again.
Yeah,
and
then can't blow that off, Mario. And it's because, as you just said, twice in past year, I mean, within 12 months, we have seen that it's been irresistible to resist the temptation here once you have those coordinates.
But I'm not too worried about this. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be a big deal for another 2-3 months. And by the time that deal comes in, the pain to the world global economy will be so great, Trump won't dare assassinate the new supreme leader after getting a deal. So I'm not too worried about this one yet. If it happens in next month and they get good word of where he is, yeah, it could still happen because it's only in July that the real pain will start.
And I'm explaining that that's one of the issues in the escalation or smart bomb trap going back in history. That when Ronald Reagan in 1986 thought he had Gaddafi in his gun sights with the F-111s, couldn't resist that attack. When Bill Clinton thought he could degrade, maybe he didn't know he could actually kill Milosevic, maybe that's going a little too far, but he certainly thought they were going to degrade the Milosevic regime, take out a lot of the cronies and so forth in a 3-day, and he went right for that. And I'm telling you that in actual cases where I have been in the room, I have seen very, very senior leaders here once they see the...
Yes, but none of those situations had the Strait of Hormuz as a factor. The fact that Iran can just devastate the world economy by closing Strait of Hormuz completely for another 6 months, that threat is just as bad as a nuke in terms of how much fear it inspires.
Capability of these precision weapons within just 3-meter accuracy, which means they can hit a room, their mind immediately goes to, can I kill the person who's my enemy? And so this is something that is one of the key mechanisms of that escalation trap. And there's no reason to think Donald Trump has, quote, learned his lesson on this. The idea, that's what I think people keep thinking, that Donald Trump will just learn his lesson. You see, he's touched the iron once, he won't touch it again. And the problem is that's just not the incentive structure that you see with Donald Trump.
Well, one thing I will say that I am hopeful for is that it's now been 3 months in this war and Trump hasn't bombed Iran's oil infrastructure, which means that Iran hasn't really gone after the oil and infrastructure in the region, and there's still the potential to bring all that oil back online. I think he hasn't touched Iran's oil so far because he knows that. He knows that Iran would destroy the rest of the oil in the Gulf. I cannot see, after holding off 3 months, him deciding to go after the oil now. I don't see that really happening. So the other type of escalation that we talked about yesterday, about trying to go in and take control of the Strait of Hormuz, that I see, yeah, that might happen. But I don't think Trump will go after the oil. That's my feeling. It's possible that Israel might, without Trump's approval, or some other Gulf state. So we're not completely out of the woods yet, but I'm hopeful that now my original assessment, 2-3 months from now, the deal will be worked out. I think we're still heading for that.
And then you've got the third one, which is horizontal escalation. And we've seen that throughout the war, where Iran retaliated by striking the entire region and leveraging its proxies, and that worked. Obviously, as we've seen right now, it's even done it in the limited clashes that we've seen. Kuwait was attacked 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Dubai was attacked a week ago after Project Freedom. And there's something that Trita Parsi said to me yesterday. He said, Mario, I think Iran would continue, and that's a question I have for you, Professor, would continue the strategy of horizontal escalation if, for example, Israel, there's a ceasefire sign that includes Lebanon, a red line for Iran. And Israel decides, as they usually do, to breach that ceasefire and continue their strikes again. Well, what Iran can do in a way that could avoid direct confrontation with the US is not strike Israel, is strike Israel's closest ally that will also impact the global economy while also indirectly impacting the Israeli alliance.
Not good for UAE.
And that's the UAE again, which has been a habit of
Well,
Iran.
let me give you a
He lives in UAE, by the way.
specific scenario about how that possibly could play out, just so that we have a concrete one. So you're right. And Trita, by the way, joined me on that big live event that we did in DC a week ago.
He's great.
At Poison Post, and he was just brilliant. So I think Trita and you are exactly right to worry about how things could start to unravel in Lebanon. But let me give you a more detailed way in which that might happen. So if you imagine here that Iran is, of course, very unhappy that things have not calmed down in Lebanon, and there's good reason to think they won't calm down, then they also have the Houthis. And the Houthis, as we already know, have already intervened to attack Israel, to go toward there. And then you could say, well, okay, we can have American forces try to shoot down Houthi missiles or future drones or so forth. Of course, we're running out of interceptors to do that. But nonetheless, you could say that. Well, but Iran, with horizontal escalation, has some more options, which is it can also encourage the Houthis to shut down Red Sea oil exports. So that this is something that is...
That is what will happen. If there's a real resumption of hostilities, not like this, small scale tit for tat, but the United States tries something big, like taking an island in the Strait of Hormuz, then we already know what Iran's going to do. It's going to hit targets throughout the Gulf again. It's going to go after the undersea cables that go through the Strait of Hormuz that basically connect all of Asia to Europe, United States, just huge amount of data. Devastating to have these internet cables severed here. And of course, the Houthis would close the Red Sea. So everything would get much, much worse. And Trump knows it. Iran has been very clear in stating all this. That's why he's doing more limited military action.
Again, Iran has horizontal escalation here where they have some escalation leverage. They have rungs up the escalation ladder, especially with oil and gas that they have not used yet. And that can come in to either serve as a deterrent. So if, Israel, well, the Houthis are attacking us, do something about it, world, America, and so forth. Well, there's going to be some deterrent power that Iran has to protect its Houthis here. And then if it turns out that it needs to actually use it, it can go up that rung and it can start to threaten incrementally the Red Sea exports. It can start to incrementally threaten the pipelines. This is a form of the escalation, this horizontal escalation, where we haven't really seen the limit of it. What we have seen, by the way, is that Iran has been calibrated in...
Yeah, they've been very, very deliberate in what they've targeted. We went after one desalination plant in Iran. Iran went after one desalination plant in Bahrain. Israel hits the LNG facility in Iran. They hit the one in Qatar. Really an eye for an eye, tit for tat. And they were very careful in not just shooting everything, it's just doing it in retaliation. Really good for establishing deterrence. And it worked. Trump didn't go after the oil infrastructure in Iran. Anyway, let's watch another video on what's going to happen in July.
Now, in a kind of a sense, you could say, well, this isn't such a big thing because we do still have a ceasefire in place in the sense that, we get these skirmishes, but there's at the moment no big battle. But of course, the effect is that the Strait of Hormuz remains essentially closed.
And that every day that's the case, Iran is winning.
Energy stocks are continuing to decline around the world. The United States has its own blockade of Iran, which continues to take place.
Which makes it worse in a way, in terms of when the world reaches the breaking point for this oil shock. Yes, the Trump's blockade makes it worse.
It's difficult for people outside Iran like us to say how effective that has been, but my sense is very far from as effective as Trump perhaps believes. And we're getting reports from the energy industry, and I read places like oilprice.com every day. They're saying that in June, July is going to be the tipping point, unless we get a situation where we can be sure that the Strait of Hormuz is going to reopen and stay open. We are going to start to see severe global shortages of energy right around the world and a major increase in energy prices in Europe and in the United States. So we don't have...
I'd say that June, middle of June, is the tipping point, because once you get the Strait of Hormuz open again, getting all the ships to start flowing through there again, that's going to take, even if they absolutely rush it, at least a month or two. And so, right now, oil inventories are going to reach a bottom in July. So you have 1 month. You want that strait to start opening mid-June at least, so that ships start arriving right about when oil inventories are completely depleted. Like that, you avoid a spike in oil up to 200. But that, I think that window is nearly already closed, because, again, it takes a month or two to get traffic in Strait of Hormuz up and running again. And I think even if it was signed today, it'd be very close to get ships to arrive before. It takes a month and a half for ships to also leave Strait of Hormuz. So yeah, I think it's already probably too late to avoid some spike in price this summer. The question is, if there were to be a deal today, that spike would be a lot smaller.
An unlimited amount of time. And this is something that Trump doesn't seem to be able to grapple with.
Well, is he okay with the fact that the price of oil hovers at around the $100 range, give or take? 95 one day, 105.
Honestly, this is something you see all the time in human. It's just like the student that has summer homework that all summer he knows it's due and he puts it off, and then this panic at the end of the summer when he's trying to rush to do it all. This is Trump doing the same thing. He knows he has to do something. He knows the crisis is coming, but he doesn't want to bite the bullet and take the pain now, which is he wants to delay it and maybe somehow Iran magically surrenders. It's not going to, though.
The next. It seems like the U.S. administration, Bessent and Trump, are fine with that. Do they believe that they can keep that price in there past July? And if so, do they consider that as...
No. Physical shortages you can't control. What they can control, and what they have been doing, is through selling paper oil in the futures market, like paper, and releasing oil in the physical market from the reserves, you can suppress the price of oil from what it really should be for a while. But when the reserves, the national reserves, can't draw any more oil from that, then manipulation ends. The physical market just shoots up. You can still keep the paper market down, but in terms of the actual oil market, you're going to have shortages, and that's going to appear in places, and that's going to create panic, and that's going to push the price over $200 a barrel. And yeah, that's having physical shortages in major first world countries. That's what will really get the price of gas to start soaring.
As a way to extend this waiting game all the way to say November, December, where perhaps they may feel like they'll be in a better position, or they will have more leverage over Iran because Iran's economy will have deteriorated by December, say. So they're saying, let's keep it at 100. Can we keep that going until?
If Trump had put his blockade in place right when he'd bombed the Supreme Leader, it might be about even in terms of who's having more economic pain, the world or Iran. But by letting Iran export record amount of oil at record prices for a month and a half at the beginning of the crisis, now the balance is not even. Now the United States is going to, and the world is going to hurt much sooner and fold. It's guaranteed. Iran can outlast the global economy. So it's not, Trump might be trying that, but it's not a valid strategy.
The winter, and then we'll
Yeah.
have real pressure to put on Iran.
You see, this is what I think maybe that
Because it hasn't gone to 150. That's my point.
No,
We haven't
no,
seen this 150 or 200.
you are absolutely correct. And here it's important to point out that way back
In the physical market, though, oil is already at 140 if you want to buy oil today.
in April, if you remember, there were all kinds of people who were predicting that, in fact, not just all kinds of people, the vast majority of people who follow energy news were predicting that we would get $150 oil in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from the start of this. And we've never quite got that. And of course, the big question is why? Why have we not seen $150 oil? And is that indeed creating this belief in Washington on Trump's side and Besson's side that we're never going to get there and that $100 a barrel oil is bearable, at least it's bearable in the United States, and we don't have to worry. Now, I have to say this. I've been, again, reading what they've been saying in the...
I don't think so. I think Trump, he's smart enough to get it. Exactly how much pain, how bad it would be, $200 a barrel of oil. Problem is, it's suicide for him. The deal that's on the table is the end of his presidency if he signs it. Everyone will turn on him. It's Trump, it's the United States losing to Iran. Trump starting a war of choice and then losing that war of choice badly to what should be an inferior country like Iran. He won't recover from this. And that's why he can't sign the deal until it's going to take the rest of the world forcing him to sign the deal. And we need to reach that July tipping point before the world starts to panic and starts to put real pressure on Trump to cave in to Iran. That's why the end of August, maybe if things go badly, September before this deal finally happens. But I guarantee you, by the time we get to August, the world is still in a holding pattern. Since the oil markets aren't yet a disaster. It's $100 a barrel oil isn't a disaster. Once we pass tipping point and oil is at $200 a barrel oil, maybe even higher in the cash market, then you'll have real panic.
trade journals. And this is bearable. At least it's bearable in the United States. And we don't have to worry. Now, I have to say this. I've been, again, reading what they've been saying in the trade journals. And they say that one reason why we've never got to $150 oil is because oil is being released constantly from the stockpiles. And we've got stockpiles all around the world.
Exactly.
And this is why they're saying that June, July is going to be the moment of crisis, because that's when the stockpiles start to fall below critical levels. That may be true. I have to say, I have a further view, and it is purely my own view. I can't confirm this, but I suspect that this is right. And I'm going to make a guess that there's been an awful
lot of manipulation in the markets. Yes, I've been saying it from the beginning. They can't allow oil to go above 100 in the futures market. It would create too much chaos in derivatives. It would push up interest rates on the 10-year treasuries because $140 oil on the futures market, that people would look at that and start demanding more yields on their treasuries. But they can hide what's actually going on in the oil market, in the physical market, with the treasuries. So you have, what's oil close at on Friday? Amazing. Basically closed at $90 or $88 a barrel. And in the physical market, it's $140. So you're $60 below what's going on in the physical market. That's insane. That's manipulation for you.
lot of intervention, behind the scenes in the financial markets by the US authorities, probably with some assistance from, private financial institutions, to make sure that the long-term price of oil continues to remain low. In other words, people are buying.
Absolutely, there's manipulation going on.
To my own mind, in any other way, given that, as I said, oil shortages continue to increase around the world.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if your guess is correct, it's a dangerous game because eventually the the reality is going to catch up, right? So
So I've heard it, but it's a dangerous game. You're saying it that way, but if you have a financial system that's on the short side of oil in derivatives, and you have sold call options at like 120 for oil, you need to hold oil down under 100 for a couple of months so you can reposition yourself in derivative markets. And anytime you can't have too big a swing in derivatives without basically major banks going under, and that would bring down the financial system or the dollar, as the Fed has to print money to bail them out.
you know, and when it does catch up, it's going to be pretty bad. But we do know that the United States is
So what I was saying is, it'd be worse for the financial markets if they let oil go up naturally. It'd be better, I agree there, for the world to have oil go up sooner but less. Like, if oil had actually started trading, if you don't manipulate price and let oil be at 150 now in the futures market, it impacts like drilling. Like oil companies would actually start drilling if they saw the price of oil in the futures market go up, and that would bring supply online sooner. It would also reduce consumption. The oil market would start to sort itself out. But by keeping it artificially low at 100, where it should be a lot higher, we're over-consuming right up into the edge when there's no spare capacity left, and then we're going to have a massive surge in oil price.
dipping into their strategic petroleum reserves. They are drawing from the SPR, which is also a dangerous game. And we do know that stockpiles are starting to run low. So the question becomes, how long can the U.S. keep this going? The Trump administration has signaled that it's not concerned with the pain that Americans feel for the moment. At the moment, they have elections in November, but Trump has basically said, he's come out there and said, I'm not really worried about.
He's worried about it. He started this Iran war at the perfect time to torch his chances in the midterm. If he had started this Iran war, let's say in June or July, then he might have been able to survive. The worst of the oil shock would have hit after the midterms. But the way it is now, there's no way for him to keep the price of oil down all the way through the midterms. So gas price, you're going to have we're going to have $7 a gallon gas by the end of the summer.
The financial situation of American citizens right
by
now.
August.
When does he and the Republican Party and the ruling elite, when do they start to worry about the situation of American citizens' finances? They couldn't give it.
I say the rest of the world getting together to pressure Trump into accepting this bad Iran deal, but it won't only be the rest of the world. It will be Republicans too, because once gas prices hit $7 a gallon, that's Republicans losing the House and the Senate. They will panic too, and they will be among those. Well, except for a few war hawks, the rest of them, anyone who cares about the electoral chances, will be pressuring Trump to cave in to Iran.
An F about what's happening in Europe or anywhere else in the world, nor do the Europeans care. They don't even.
And Republicans are going to be angry with Trump because they are going to be hurt badly in the midterm because of this Iran war. And so far they're giving him benefit of the doubt because he might still pull off a victory or something. But when we get to the midterms, it will be evident that Trump started a war that put the United States in a worse position in terms of everything. And it drove gas prices up to the point where it's going to hurt Republicans in the midterms. So we got nothing out of this, and Republicans get badly hurt. Yeah, they're going to be furious with Trump.
Talk about fuel shortages or petroleum gas prices. They don't even care. They don't mention it. They don't discuss it. It doesn't bother them one bit. So it's really about the United States and how long the U.S. can keep this thing going, whatever this thing is that they have going. Going on.
Can I just say something about the Europeans? You're completely right about the Europeans. I mean, gas reserves in Europe are also at low levels. I mean, not perhaps critically low levels, but at low levels. And I understand that less and less gas is being injected into the reserves because there's less gas.
The real crisis in Europe is next winter in terms of natural gas. The loss of Qatar, the biggest 25% of the world's natural gas. And now they've cut themselves off from Russian natural gas. The United States will have export restrictions as you get close to the midterms. There's nowhere to get the natural gas they need for next winter. And they had a harsh winter this year. And so their gas reserves are already below where they should be. Europe is fucked. They're going to have to be paying like 3-4 times what they should be to heat their homes this winter.
Altogether around. You would have thought that this was a matter of massive concern for the European leadership. And yet there's no sign that it is. They seem to be completely unfazed about this. It's not as if they're doing very much about this. I mean, if we start to see energy prices start to rise in the autumn, well, there is no plan ahead to prepare for that possibility. And the same applies to oil and to other things. But as you rightly say, if we're talking about the United States,
Nice to have you here also.
Trump and Bessent and all of the others, they don't care at all what happens in Europe, in Asia, anywhere else. It is the United States itself. Now, you see, this is the problem. I can't say when all of this is going to get really hard. All I can do is look at what the people in the industry are saying. They're saying that in June, July, we're going to pass the tipping point. That the situation.
Some places will begin passing it in June, but the United States, most important actor, is going to pass it in July. So that's when it's really going to get bad. Some places like Japan will still have oil reserves for a few more months, but the fact that the United States won't be releasing millions of barrels from its reserve, that alone is going to drive out the prices enormously here in the United States.
Situation with the petroleum reserves is going to become critical. And from that moment, we are no longer talking about.
It's going to be more than 10%. I've seen this happen before. When they hold the price down, they're doing this because there are players that have huge short positions in derivatives, in commodities. And if you have a too sharp a swing in oil prices, like something like a 100% swing in crude prices, if it had gone up to 150 in futures contracts, you'd have catastrophic losses for some banks. And the government would have to bail them out, and it would shake confidence in the entire financial system. And so that's why they're holding it down. If in the physical market right now, if you want oil, it's 140. It's clearly, when you have a $50 disconnect between what's going physical and paper, that's manipulation.
And when you get oil shortages, the only way to ration oil effectively is by allowing the price to rise. So
Agreed.
if you follow that thinking, then we are talking about the summer. And I don't think, actually, that the Republican Party is as comfortable with this situation as Donald Trump and Bessent are. Again, I don't know what's going on within the administration, but I would not be surprised if Bessent is coming along to Trump and telling him, look, I'm doing all of these very clever things in the financial markets.
Yes.
I'm the person who knows how to do these things. I've done them before in my life. I can keep this thing steady for months and months. Trump assumes that this is so, and he's happy about it. He sees that, the stock markets continue to rise. He sees that the boom in technology stocks continues. He's very comfortable about this. And perhaps he's also being told that the Iranians have a very limited time window.
Yeah, if we had put our blockade in place day one, it might be a lot more even in who's going to fold first. But after you give them a month and a half of exporting record oil at record prices, yeah, I don't think they will fold first.
That in 2 or 3 months or even sooner, things are going to start to get really bad in Iran. Now, that may be complacent on all.
He is going to tackle again. But I don't think it's different than tackle. What I expect is, I think Republicans, the rest of the world, leaders, the entire world getting together and forcing Trump to capitulate to Iran sometime in August is my best bet. August or September. I don't know if it will be a taco, because taco is Trump chickening out, but Trump being forced to do something, it's not so much taco. I don't think he's going to sign a deal, because signing a deal is political suicide for him. And so he could stay as a viable president, quote unquote, for another maybe 2 months, or maybe a little bit longer, by not signing a deal until the world forces him to.
Both sides. It may be that Iran's endurance is far greater than Trump and Bessent imagine. Bear in mind that one of the big story.
As if we're talking about Trump tacoing out, he's been doing that for the past 2 weeks. He has had this agreement, this deal on his table, and he's not signed it. He's chickened out from signing the deal. So then that way it is taco.
About this whole crisis from the start is a massive underestimation of Iran and of its ability to withstand the kind of blows that the United States has rained down on it. So it may be that they're again underestimating the resilience of Iran's economy and the amount of help and support that Iran is getting from its allies. So that they may be miscalculating there, and they may be miscalculating about their ability to keep this whole thing spinning on for weeks and months, all the way up to November and perhaps beyond. Personally, I would be surprised if we are still in a situation where the Strait of Hormuz remains essentially closed, if we don't get real stresses in the global economy, in financial markets, in energy markets, really starting to express themselves by summer. I mean, I've been looking
Everything I know, yes, that's when it's going to hit.
at, as I said, what the industry is saying, and they are all united in saying this now.
Keep in mind that you also have, outside of Bessent telling Mr. Trump, you also have Israel and Netanyahu telling Mr. Trump as well. Iran's going to collapse. Forget about a peace deal. What we need to do is actually ramp up the escalation. You need to restart the military operations. One more push, one more strike from the United States, and Iran's going to crumble. So you have Israel as well, Netanyahu whispering all of this to Trump, and Trump, he as you said, he feels comfortable with it, and he buys into it. And we are, in the situation that we find ourselves in, where effectively the problem is that the United States is the military.
It will not last long. Well, okay. I am also a big believer in charts and that they had a huge impact on prices. But there are some situations where you have to look beyond charts, like this war in Iran. I don't know whatever the charts were telling you about oil before this war, but an actual physical shortage will override a chart. So just keep that in mind.
Military is squatting in the area, right? They're not going to leave. This is what I think about.
That's what they're saying, but I think they're being overly hopeful. From everything I know, even if there was a deal today, it would be hard for the oil markets to be completely sorted out by September. The situation would be far better if there was a deal today than in 2 months, but it's still. There's some commentators, watched one yesterday, who thinks we're not going under $100 a barrel for at least another 5 years. Not sure about that. Considering, I don't think we're going back to $70 a barrel oil anytime in next year.
What often is, you have these negotiations, and
Under 100 maybe later on.
it's going to be difficult for Iran to get the United States to pull back from their blockade as well. Once a squatter enters your home, your apartment, whatever, it's hard to get them out. I mean, I don't see the incentive for the United States to stop the blockade, to lift the blockade. And then you have signals from Trump, where I read what Trump is saying as very much in line with, we want to control the Strait of Hormuz, or at least we want to watch over it. We don't want.
Of course, Trump wants to control Greenland. He wants to control everything. The fact that Iran controls the strait and he doesn't, I'm sure is very irritating to Donald Trump, and he wants to control the straits. But
want anyone else to watch over it. We want to take control of it.
Yes. Well, let's start first of all with Netanyahu. And of course, he's been selling the story for at least 2 years now, ever since Israel first launched its attacks on Iran and on Hezbollah, that the Iranians and the Hezbollah are massively damaged, that they're a house of cards, they're about to collapse. Well, we've seen over the last weeks that he massively oversold that. I mean, Iran did not collapse. There was no collapse within a couple of days or within a week. Iran was able to close the Strait of Hormuz, which apparently he told Trump they wouldn't be able to do. And yet Trump still listens to him.
Don can't even control his mouth. Anyway.
He still pays attention to what Netanyahu is saying.
Unfortunately. Anyway, that's the basic situation in the oil market. This will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you next video. Bye.